ourselves. We all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here at Black Star Network. We are truly moving into territory in area as it relates to balance, where oftentimes we are unclear, uncertain, and without direction. As we are moving into October with breast cancer awareness and then later into November with caregiver engagement, these are the things that happen in our lives that literally throw us off center. They cause us to, really question and pause. Are we prepared and are we ready? But one of the things that I've discovered, as we've all in life at some time or another, some point or another, will be hit or faced with something unexpected. I've discovered that you never really know how strong you are until you're put into a situation, a crisis, or some type of life event that causes you to dig deep, settle down, and focus in on what really matters most in our lives. Today on our show, we're going to be discussing those things. How do we find balance, not only for ourselves, but for our loved ones and those around us? We're joined today by Pastor JT, Mocha Lee, Dr. Tierney, and Stacey Owens. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Dr. J. This is one of those subjects and times where we say to ourselves, are we ready and are we prepared? In each of our lives, we can equally say that we have either known someone, know someone, or have been in that situation personally ourselves where we get something unexpected. And usually when people hear the C word, the cancer word, everybody just pauses. Like, we literally hold our breath and wait. Like, what did the doctor say? What is it that you need to do? How can we help? And there are times where we really don't know what to do. And the first question that I want to get to today is, how do we ourselves hold it together when we hear of the unexpected as it relates to health? Mocha Lee.
Ooh, you're starting with me.
I am starting with you.
I'm glad you're starting with me, Dr. Jacquie, because since we are talking about Breast Cancer Awareness Month and, the C word, I have to let you guys know that my mom is actually a survivor. Hers was cervical cancer. And I was in college at the time, so I wasn't really around a lot for her treatment. She's still alive, praise the Lord. But I will say what I learned from her is not to panic. Believe it or not, her and my dad just seemed to work through that thing as if, we're a team, we're going to make it. And she always told me, if I ever run into other cancer patients, it's a mindset, be positive, be positive. And I said, hey, I'm going to take that and run with it, because over the course of my fitness career, of course, I've had several clients dealing with treatment. And I was right there with them, like surprised that they even had the energy to work out during chemo. Of course, it was low impact. But I would say that hands down, I learned just to be positive through it all, even though it's easier said than done. And also no panicking, no panic. No.
Pastor JT.
I'll piggyback off of what Mocha said, kind of with a similar story, but the opposite. My father, he is a prostate cancer survivor. And amazingly enough, I always saw my dad as like a superhero figure. But it was when he championed the C word, it really showed me the grit and the determination that I always believed that he had. But one thing that I learned from him was to keep going. Now, being a pastor, I'm always going to suggest that in these moments, you fall back on your relationship with God or with a higher power or whoever you pray to. In that moment, I believe that prayer, meditation, it is key. But one thing that I learned from my father is to keep going. And I remember one day I was kind of angry at him because I wanted him to sit down somewhere. It felt like Jamel was the father and, Arthur Joe was the son. And I just couldn't get him to be still. And he looked at me and he told me, he said, if I slow down, if I stop, he said, cancer is going to get me. And so I say, huh? He said, yeah. Say, the doctor say I got cancer, but I can't let cancer get me. And so he kept going, kept washing his car, kept cutting his grass. And when I still talk to people now about it, and this was in the infancy of our church, so many people don't even believe that he had it. But he is a survivor, and he taught me how to survive in life. Because while we are talking about the C word, there are some A words, there are some B words, there are some D words, there are some life words, some challenges that are going to come. But if we learn how to keep going, we'll get through it, and we'll be on the other side as survivors as well.
Such wisdom. Dr. Tierney.
So like Pastor Jamel just stated, my father also had prostate cancer. And this was, it was several years ago. I was actually still in undergraduate, finishing my degree. And so I was away. I wasn't at home. But the thing that really struck me, similar again to what Pastor Jamal just said, my dad just treated it like a cold or a sinus infection or any other kind of normal ailment, you know, that we get from the doctor. He never once said anything about leaving here. He never once looked at it as something that could truly take him out. My father just celebrated his 80th birthday in August, and you would not think that he ever had cancer, you know, at all. He still plays golf. He was playing golf the whole time, being the amazing Kappa man, you know, that he is. But the thing that really struck me is that while we were the ones that were, you know, kind of clutching our pearls, so to speak, he was looking at us like, what's wrong with y'all? I'm just, you know, the doctor done said this, and this, and I know I'm gonna be all right. And we just gonna do what we got to do and just, you know, keep it moving. And so his strength actually strengthened us, and it taught me how to approach, you know, life in general. But when we start talking about things like cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, any of the cancers, to just look at it as this is just another dis-ease that we need to, you know, power our way through, faith our way through, and get to the other side.
Absolutely. Stacey.
I'm going to, piggyback off of everyone else too, because my son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business and so forth. And it was a sudden change for him as well. It just came out of nowhere. And I think for me, how I handled that sudden change was by gathering an understanding of it. Like, I didn't want to let fear kick in. You fear the unknown. And so I knew as long as I didn't understand what type of cancer it was, what type of effect it can have on your body, the more I didn't know about it, I feared that, it made the situation bigger than what it could possibly be. So I went within and started researching and just asking questions and just tried to build my knowledge on understanding what journey we were about to embark upon. And just like everyone else, the interesting thing is my son, he actually became the pillar that gave us strength because he made it up in his mind. He just so happened to go to church with a friend one night, and a pastor said that something was wrong with someone in the building. They pulled him to the altar, prayed on him. They didn't even know him. This was his first time visiting the church. He had never been there before at all. And he had an experience in that moment. And when he walked out that building, he decided that, he was told that he was going to be healed. And he believed that. And once that became his foundational belief, then he didn't want anybody in his circle to victimize him, pity him, or come around him with any negativity, because he knew he was already healed. And so we're all over here panicking, like, well, what chemo? What we got to do? What we got to do this? And he's like, you guys need to remove yourself from me with that. I need for this to be, I'm already healed. And once we embraced that, it made it so much easier to go through.
Each of you have said some things that I know will resonate with our audience. We've heard be positive, keep moving forward, mind your approach to what you are doing, get an understanding about it all. When we come back after the break, because I have a feeling our second segment is going to be a little bit longer, we want to talk about how faith and medicine are married when we're back after the break.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And we've heard quite a few things that help us identify and understand how to manage and deal with those unexpected things in life. And oftentimes we get into that space of trying to figure out how do faith and medicine are married to each other. Pastor JT, talk to us for that. Pastor JT, talk to us about that for a moment, because faith and medicine literally do go together. And oftentimes we have people who say, I want faith, I want medicine, I want both, or I want neither. And sometimes it's like, just get out of my face, because I'm not in the space to hear any of that. Can you talk to us about the marriage between faith and medicine?
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Jacquie. And I am going to side with the people that say that they need both of them. Because I will be honest with you, I believe that they both are extremely important in both rights. And I believe especially dealing with certain communities, me being an African-American pastor, I see a lot of times that it's easier for us to come to church than it is for us to go to a doctor. And I'm not knocking faith. I believe in that. I believe in prayer. But I also understand where our medical professionals and medicine itself has its own lane. Because listen to this, if you didn't go to the doctor first, you wouldn't even know what you need to pray for. So I believe that I believe that they are married, but I believe it's that notion that I don't necessarily need the doctor or I don't need the medicine, so to speak. I believe that that's what keeps us from early detection. I believe that keeps us, that when we do go, we end up going and we're in stage 3 or we're in stage 4, or especially for African-American men, the finger is halfway severed off and we've put every bandage we could find in the house. And so, hey, I might as well go to the doctor. And that's the mindset that I believe that always forces us as a community to always be the one, I believe, that's on the totem pole when it comes to receiving proper health care, because we are not proactive. So I'm not taking anything away from faith, but I will say, as the young people will say, keep that same energy. Just as you are motivated to go into service at 11 o'clock, don't miss that 4 o'clock appointment with your doctor. And then when the doctor prescribes you something to do, always consult both of your doctors, your physical doctor and your heavenly doctor. And I believe that they work in concert, because I believe that if you really believe, kind of going back to what my sister Stacy said about her son and having the belief that he was going to be healed, if you really believe in your prayer, you're not going to go and see a doctor that you hadn't prayed for. Because you're going to believe that your God is going to guide the doctor and is going to give the doctor wisdom to utilize the tools that he or she has learned over the years of school and over the years of practice to be able to serve you best.
So I'm not going to ask you to get a little preachy, but as you were talking, no, this is serious, because when you were talking, there's this scripture that says faith without works is dead. Yes. And oftentimes we have this tendency to just rely on faith and not do the work of the prescription that the doctor gave us, or halfway take our medicine, or not do the physical exercise and not change our diet. Pastor JT, why is it important that we understand that you have to put in the work as a patient?
So I'm going to give a real life analogy. I have been, very vocal about the way that we put death on our plate with our food choices, and then have the mitigated gall to say grace and ask God to let this food be nourishing for our bodies as your word is nourishing for our souls. That's insanity. You are literally killing everything inside of you and then putting hot sauce and Tony Chachere's on it, and then asking God to make it healthy. Well, no, I can't make something healthy that is going to kill you. So I believe that it is extremely important for us to do the work. And again, the scripture says, above all, I wish that you would prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. So it's work that has to be done. And many of us, if we just be honest, many of us are dealing with the medical issues because we are not taking the actual medicine that has been given to us to help us avoid the medical issues, which is our diet. So I know I'm pivoting off of the whole intent of this conversation, but going back to doing the work. There's a lot of preventative work that we can do. But if we happen not to have done that preventative work, when we are prescribed things that helps us, even one of the issues that is prevalent in the African-American community, hypertension. If we are prescribed to take medication, one of the things that we have to do in conjunction with taking the pills is we also have to look at our diet. So it's those things. There is no wonder drug. I've seen a few memes that have floated around. And there was a pastor, and I prayed to God that it's a joke, but there was a pastor that supposedly had performed this miracle in service where he said, belly be gone. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. God hasn't anointed me with that gift. But if God is giving people the gifts of belly be gone, I promise you, Dr. Jacquie, we're going to take this show on the road, because I know it's a lot of people that would love for that to be the case. But work has to be done for us to achieve the life that I believe that we all have the opportunity to live.
Now, I agree with that. And I'm going to bring Mocha Lee in, because I know the Amen Corner is over there. And by the way, Pastor JT, thank you for quoting my favorite scripture, which was 3 John 2. Y'all can look that up. It was perfect. Now, Mocha, this is so true what Pastor JT is saying, because you have to put in the work. Now, a part of this is about cancer and about diagnoses and about sudden illnesses and preventative health. And all of these things can throw us off balance when we have not done our part. Talk to us about the value of physical fitness and well-being in preparation for whatever comes next in each of our lives.
I mean, this is like the best message. I know every person watching this is getting something, because do the work is huge. But I think maybe if you don't have to think of it as work, right? Because physically, our bodies are our temples. And Pastor JT mentioned prevention, and really that's my job all day, every day for years. I'm helping people think, what can I do now to keep myself healthy so I won't have to get the diagnosis, So everybody knows about hormones, yes? How about those endorphins? They're real. Endorphins are those feel-good hormones that your body creates when you're exercising. And it's linked to your mental health, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you are someone who's received some bad news about a diagnosis, you're going to have to figure out, how can I keep myself sane through all of this? So believe it or not, even though it might be, not the first thing you think of, you still want to move your body, which makes sense why we heard others attest to the fact that even the people who were dealing with the disease kept moving because it's linked to your mindset. It's linked to those hormones and those feel good endorphins and serotonin and dopamine, and all those hormones are in your body, and we trigger them with movement. So everybody's movement looks different. I'm telling you, most people can at least generally walk, yes. Then you have other people who like dancing and that whole Zumba craze and line dancing. It's movement. I know some people, 2 people in particular, who go up and down their stairs in their big old house because you're still getting your heart rate up, you're still moving. I just hope that people can start to understand that it really is a lifestyle. It really is a decision. When you wake up every morning, you're just thinking, what can I do to keep myself healthy, in addition to making the smart food choices? And that is move your body, move your body. You've got to listen to your doctor, just like Pastor JT said, because if they say get a mammogram, sisters. Go check your boobs because once you find things early, you can catch it, and it's going to be all right. You just don't want to be in denial. You just don't want to feel like, oh, it's yet another thing I have to do. Just, believe that living a healthy lifestyle can work. And even if you have to take baby steps to get there, trust me, you will get there. And even this t-shirt I'm wearing is like a retro throwback from a fundraiser I did, Barbells for Boobs. We were just raising money to try to get more women to get mammograms. And this one was an intense workout. These were like clean and jerks. I don't know if I'm doing that these days. This was back in like 2011, but as long as you're working out and moving, and find some type of fundraiser or cause or a walk. Susan G. Komen has plenty of walks. Do something to be active and to grab somebody else in the community and say, come on, let's do this, because we just have to encourage each other. That's really what it's all about.
Absolutely right, because we're not in this alone. And oftentimes when we receive a diagnosis of any kind, and especially as it relates to cancers or breast cancer specifically, we do get into that mental health space of saying, oh no, why me? What's happening? What can I do? Dr. Tierney, talk to us about that for a moment, about how to get our mental health in order so that we can deal and find an approach in order to manage the diagnosis that we receive. Why is it important for us to get into that mental health space?
I love that you pulled into the mental health piece, because as I was sitting here listening to Pastor JT and Mocha and you kind of have the conversation, something that I always, tell my clients is that, Jesus has done his work. He went on up to be at the right hand of the Father. And so now the way that we see our faith really walked out and, the miracles of things happening, it's through his people. We are the hands and feet of Jesus. So when we are thinking about, faith plus medicine, you have to look at it in terms of like your minister is the hands and feet of Jesus to help make sure that your soul, is in good health. The physician, the MD, they are the hands and feet of Jesus to make sure that your physical being is in good health. And then take us, the coaches and the therapists, we are the hands and feet of Jesus to make sure that your mental health is where it needs to be. Now, going back to that scripture, pray that you prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. What we often do is we want to focus on one end of it, of the soul prosperity, thinking that will pull your physical and your mental health, into where it needs to be. But while they work in conjunction, God has equipped each of us, the hands and feet, the doctors and the ministers, to help to maintain or help you to maintain each one of these areas individually. So if you focus only on your soul prosperity, but you let your mental and emotional get cat raggedy, then all of it will end up, coming down altogether, so you have to focus on each of them. So as we're talking about this mental health piece, it is critical that we make sure that we are prioritizing our mental health along with our spiritual health, along with our physical health, because notice when I was talking earlier, I said diseases. A lot of the things that manifest in our body, they start here in our mind. So if my mental state is one that it is rife with stinking thinking and super negative, and I see the worst in every situation, it will eventually cause things to happen in our body. Stress is the number one culprit for ulcers. And so while we don't know necessarily the exact cause of cancers, when we don't check our mental spaces, it can then exacerbate those things that have manifested in our bodies. But when we keep a check on our mental and emotional health, then that can help our bodies to heal itself. It can help our bodies to rejuvenate, itself, and for the cells and things to become, reconnected just by focusing in on what it is that we are thinking. There's a scripture that said, a man is so as he thinketh. So if I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna die, I'm speaking death right then, just from what I'm thinking in my head, feeling in my heart. That's what's coming out of my mouth. So my body is gonna say, okay, that's what we're doing. All right, let's go ahead and, go on. So you have to make sure that your mental and emotional health is a priority, as well as your soul, spiritual health, as well as your physical health. They all work together.
They do absolutely work together. How we think, how we feel, what we eat. When we come back after the break, I want to talk to Stacey for a moment, because one of the things that she mentioned earlier was the role of belief, but also herself as a mom, and then also community. When we come back, we're going to talk for just a moment about the work of the community and how we can surround one another and move others' lives forward in a positive manner when we're back after the break.
Put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you eat 10.
Oh my God. Talk about blackness and what happens in black culture. We're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, our heart often drops when we hear certain things and we're in that space of the unknown. But community is a way for us to really begin to map out, think out, parcel out who's going to be in our court and in our corner when we really need them. Stacey, I want to talk to you for a moment because you mentioned something earlier about how your son with his friends went to church. And that is a part of community and not necessarily church, because not everybody that watches our show goes to church, but having friends and people in your space that identify with what you're going through. Why was that important, not only for your son, but for you as a mom to identify and say, my son is not going to be going through his diagnosis alone?
So you're right. Everyone doesn't necessarily go to church. And at that stage in my son's life, he wasn't one that typically went to church. But God has a way of bringing to you just what you need right at the time that you need it, if you can only be open to it. And so his friends came in, and this was right early on when he got the diagnosis, and he was trying to process, the changes that was going on in his life. And so they just invited him to go to church. And for whatever reason, in that moment, he decided to take the invite. And when he went in, it was a different experience for him because, one, it wasn't a church that he had typically visited before. And then that whole coming to the altar, being prayed for, and he was trying to figure out how did they even know, and that whole thing. And so he was just open to the idea. So I think it starts there with, just being open to allowing others to come in and help. And then for us, we were at the stage of determining who was our community. Who is that community going to be? And we started with the community of family first. So we first identified who within the family, from the grandparents to myself to the siblings, who all was going to embrace and encircle him for this moment. And it was tough. When you bring that family community together at first, everybody's coming with their own perceptions of how things should happen, and everybody's coming with their own ideologies. And, me as the mother standing in the middle of it, I had to say, let's just stop and listen to what Zachary feel his needs are. Because as the grandparents, they were coming in, oh, wait, me sad, what are we going to do? And he was like, I just can't deal with that right now. I know grandma loves me, but and she can pray for me, but I just can't handle carrying the weight of her sadness. So I had to navigate that for him. I had to say to them, okay, he wants us to all be happy, and don't treat him like he's on a deathbed, because he feels like he's going to make it through this. So what is his needs? Can we hear each other? And then we reached out to, what is the outside community going to look like? Because like I said, I was just starting as an entrepreneur. So I had my staff, they were concerned about me. So I had to present myself in a way to say, if it was something that they could bring to the table to help, what am I open to? What do I need from them? Can I express what our needs are so that people can give you what you need? Is there a support group out there that you want to get in touch with? So you really just have to point out, let's identify these different communities, and then let's drive how our relationship is going to be with them.
So having that sense of family as your community, how did it help you balance all of the things? You're running a business, you're writing books, you're, supporting students and other families. How does all of this level of conversation that you are having help you stay on pace with the goals that you had for your life?
Wow, I could share the responsibility. I think the hardest thing for me as a parent was checking into my own emotions and letting go any guilt that I may have, because I was thinking, is it something that I could have done better? I mean, he was a young adult coming into this, did I feed him the right foods? They were saying that the lymphoma was feeding off of the sugars, and he was a candy freak. I mean, he ate everything sweet and everything unhealthy. And I was like, oh God, was I a bad parent for not introducing him to some more vegetables? So you have to, one, balance your own emotions, let go of your guilt. And then I started addressing like, all right, how can my sister help with this? How can my mother help? What can you do? What is the thing that you can someone sit in on disappointment? Can someone drive him to disappointment? And allow that space for them to come in and help, and just identify what strengths you can bring to the table. And then I also had to identify who bringing garbage to the table. Because if you're bringing something to the table that's going to make this situation worse, then I have to find ways that you can help from a distance, so that you didn't bring more stress to the circle. And that allowed me to free up some space so that I could come and still be able to work and do the things that I need to do in that circle. And believe it or not, my coworkers kicked up. They was like, why are you here? Go do this, go take care of this. So it sort of balanced itself out.
I thank you for bringing this level of engagement to our dialogue and conversation today, because oftentimes people don't know how to approach what it is they're facing. And one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm going to ask everybody to weigh in on this, because you talked about having the hard conversations with people in our space who oftentimes bring like you said, their own ideologies to the table. And I literally had written down the woe is me, component. And oftentimes I have to stop myself and make certain that I don't cast death on people. And I know that sounds crazy, but our first reaction sometimes to things can literally set the tone for how other people are going to respond to what it is they're going through. So everybody come back in for a minute and give us some words that we can use when it comes down to engaging, or when people invite us into their community. I think that's a great way to start this conversation. People will invite us into their community because we're in their sorority or fraternity, we're in their, fitness group, we're on Facebook together, we're in all of these things together. And oftentimes people share with us. What are some of the positive things that we can say to individuals to let them know that we've got their back? Mocha Lee.
So I'm thinking of one client of mine in particular who, she's a mover and a shaker, just like everyone on this panel, just like a lot of my clients. The reason they come to me for fitness appointments is because they simply can't fit it in their schedule unless we have the appointment. And because she was a school administrator, I think at the time she was a vice principal. She knew she had an important role, but I think she was addicted to that role. And she felt like she always had to be busy and she always had to be, constantly on the run. And every time she came to see me for an appointment or for a workout, I say, hey, how's your day? She's like, girl, I'm so stressed. I'm stressed. It's stress. So one thing I had to do with this particular client is I just told her straight up, please don't say that word in this gym anymore. Because I honestly feel like it's just a negative thing for your body. It's a negative thing for your mind. And, again, I have to be the accountability person for a lot of my clients. And so I said, let's just not even say the word stress. And believe it or not, it was very difficult for her to do that. And so I said, maybe we can just reword it and say, wow, I've had a busy day, but I'm glad I made it here because now I'm going to unwind, because just like we were saying before on the panel, a lot of the stress just ends up feeding into toxicity in your body. So, that's just an example that just came immediately to my mind because I just never thought that would be my role as a trainer is also just to remind people of the mental connection there. And then always on the positive spin say, all right, come on, y'all, we got to get ready and train for the race, for the 5K, for whatever event we're going to do in honor of, a fundraiser or something to bring awareness to a cause. Absolutely. And then that gets people going like, oh yeah, I got to get ready. Let me go.
It takes those levels of positivity. Dr. Tierney.
So I think for be it you being invited into someone's space who may be dealing with an ailment, or if it is you that is the person that's dealing with the ailment. I think what Stacey said her son did is critical here. He set the tone. He said, this is how I feel, this is what I think, and this is the way that it's going to be. So if you're the one that has just received the diagnosis, then the onus is on you to set the tone to say, hey, I'm going to live. This is what's going to happen. I don't want any of this around me. Another word for this is boundaries. You set the boundaries for how you want to walk this journey out. Now, if you are the one that's being invited into this space or, a loved one has just received a diagnosis, then it's your job to take your cues from them. If they are speaking life, well, then you have to check whatever that might be that you might be feeling and take that home with you. Don't say it in their presence. Don't talk about it in their presence. Take that home with you, deal with it in your space. Don't bring that into their space, and try as best as you can to mirror, not just like in a fake way while you're present with them, but to mirror that positivity and to bring more positivity, to add to the positivity to help them through this. So I say just reflect what it is either that you need or reflect what it is that the person that you are supporting, what they are telling you that they need.
When we come back after the break, I want to continue on this topic or this particular level of conversation, because working in concert with community is one thing, but becoming a part of the community is something else. And it is a privilege. You hear me well now. It's a privilege to be invited into someone else's space when they are going through their suffering. When we're back after the break.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And we're talking about the C word, cancer. But we're also talking about how do we fit into that space when we are invited into someone's life who is going through, whether it's themselves, whether it's their child, whether it's a spouse or another loved one. We all play a part and a role in how other people get through what they are going through. I want to continue this conversation. Dr. Tierney left off with telling us about, you have to get your mind together, get your personhood together, get yourself together before you step into someone else's life, because oftentimes we can change the tenor and the tone of what someone else has already put in motion, and that can be dangerous. Literally, I have watched people pray prayers of death versus prayers of faith and prayers of belief, and you have to be really careful and make certain that you don't bring all of your pain and whatever it was you went through with your personal experience. You have to see the thing for what it is in the moment that you get it. Pastor JT, when we're talking about levels of positivity and engagement, and I want to go back to this. So this is going to be a boy-girl conversation because oftentimes women approach things differently. How do you help our brothers process these levels of conversation as it relates to leukemia with our kids, or breast cancer, or brain cancer, or prostate cancer? We process different, and guys process different. How do you help our men settle into this space of dealing with what their spouses or themselves are going to go through?
Right. So typically, and I'll look at it in two respects. Mm-hmm. So if there is a man that has been diagnosed, typically this man stays manly, right? So he's not, oh, woe is me. He's not out shopping for his tombstone. He's going to show you how strong he is. He's going to go through it. But oftentimes in those moments of strength, we fail to be vulnerable. We fail to be transparent. And then sometimes we're so strong that we shut people out. And so then now, as people are attempting to come into our community, we have locks on all of the gates. And so then sometimes there is distance between you and the potential help that you could receive because of the macho bravado that I believe that so many men feel that they have to betray. So then in that instance, even as, we talked on the show several months ago about mental health with men, just really kind of breaking that dynamic down. So many men aren't really vocal about what they experience. So I really believe that it's about finding spaces where men can be safe and they can be vulnerable, but still be seen as that man. But then I think on the other side, I think that if that man is in a relationship and his partner, his mate, has received the diagnosis, I think at that point, then you still have to adapt that same level of vulnerability. You still have to adapt that same level of empathy, so to speak, because now you're in a journey together, and your mate, 9 times out of 10, is going to have a different response to the journey that you would have. And so then this is not the time to be critical. This is not the time to push too hard, but this is the time to be that help meet. Even in that position, I want to help you meet this journey head on so we can be on the other side. So I think that it's an interesting mix, so to speak. But I believe that one of the greatest things in this moment for a man when he has received the diagnosis or his mate has received the diagnosis is humility and transparency.
Humility and transparency are not easy for men. How do you broach those conversations? Because there are so many nuances of things of what uncle used to do, what cousin so-and-so used to do, what daddy used to do. How do you help children navigate, or do we not bring children into conversations? And at what stage should we do that?
And, this generation, believe it or not, they are so wise. I mean, they are so intelligent. And I think, and this is just me from my perspective, and as I've seen, there are so many fights that we saw growing up that we didn't know was a fight. So we didn't even know. We just learned kind of, oh, wow, you were going through that? Wow, that was a struggle. But I think now in this generation, we have all, as parents, we have all accepted the notion of communication. It's not going to kill you. Talking to your children, letting them know the journey that you are on very well could be one of the greatest lessons that they will ever learn. I never forget this. My brother told me this years ago. Or matter of fact, when I was a teen, he said, Jamel, watch how you live. He said, because you may be the only Bible that a person will ever read. So as we're going through our journeys and as we are finding our faith and tapping into a strength that we didn't know that we had, this is an amazing opportunity to be a life teacher in front of our child. Because the worst thing that could ever happen is I went through a lesson and had to take the test and I barely passed. But because of my refusal to communicate to my child and give them the cliff notes, they go to the same test and they may end up flunking.
Wow, such insight. I want to invite everybody back in because I'm thinking as we're, wrapping up this block, there's some words of encouragement that we probably need to give to our audience. Every now and then we do have a show that's a little heavy, and this may have been leaning on that side. So if you had to give a stay, what would you say people to stay doing or to stay with or to stay at? Because oftentimes people have a tendency to want to give up and give in and throw in the towel because I can't take it anymore. So what are some of the things we want people to stay? Mocha.
I would love everyone to stay in the space of giving themselves grace and being patient with what they're going through, because naturally you're going to feel feelings of frustration and confusion, but just allow yourself to process the feelings and just stay giving yourself a pat on the back for just making it through another day and just go day by day. Absolutely.
Dr. Tierney.
Stay vigilant. After you get done giving yourself the grace, and I'm all about grace. I give myself a ton of grace. And you feel what you feel, keep going. Keep leaning in, keep pushing forward, keep that same energy, stay vigilant.
Stacey Owens.
What comes to my mind is live. That is your purpose every day, is to wake up and live the best day in the best moment that you can possibly live. So with cancer, live. With uncertainties, live. With any kind of disease, live. Just wake up every day and make the best of what you're going through and find a way to continue to live your best life.
Pastor JT.
So I'm going to go on and be real churchy. I'm gonna say stay prayerful. Because in our prayers, two things are happening in our prayers. One, we are praying and we are requesting. So we are requesting that patience. We are requesting that vigilance. We are requesting that healing. We are talking, but then in that moment, we are being talked back to. And oftentimes that talking back to is not telling you anything new. It's reminding you, man, you went through that. And if you went through that and came out of that you thought that you weren't going to come out of, you're going to take this and you're going to take it on the chin and you're going to keep on going. You're going to bounce right back up and you're going to win and you're going to be successful. You're going to champion this. Prayer is a dynamic tool. So I want to always say, stay prayerful.
When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflections. But prior to that, let me just say, in life, as we're going through things, we oftentimes are invited into spaces that we never thought we would be. So when is a good time to get yourself ready to become a part of someone else's village, to become a part of someone's community, to get out there and lend a hand? The time is now. Mocha said it. You have to be physically fit. Pastor JT said it. You have to be spiritually fit. Stacy said it. You have to be well-rounded and balanced and prepared. But then also Dr. Tierney said you have to be mentally fit. So all of these things require us, as we're going to step into other people's lives, is to get ourselves together first. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. And our contributors have really shared with us today some great tips, some tools, some wisdom keys for you to put into your balanced living toolkit. I get it. I understand. We oftentimes are caught off guard when we do not know what's coming next. The fear of the unknown is real. We all face it every day, whether it's things that are happening in our homes, whether every time we pick up our phone, every time we drive in our cars, there's always something that catches us by surprise. I know, I thought we had all gotten to that place where nothing would catch us by surprise. But let me just say, each and every day, you are going to be challenged. But coming alongside that, you're also going to be requested. You're going to be called upon. You're going to be asked to sow into, pour into, give into the lives of other people. And as you're thinking about how you will do that, I want you to also consider, what if the diagnosis was yours? How will you be in that space to allow other people in? I know y'all. I used to probably be one of y'all. I can handle it. I can do it by myself. I don't need anybody else. But sometimes our greatest healing comes from what we've already heard: being prayerful, being honest, and being vulnerable. Thank you for joining us today. And I hope that in some way, something we have said or done will cause you to say, I am capable and I am able to go through whatever I have to go through in order to get to the best and the balanced life that is for me. Thank you for watching. Bye now.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.